This is HighIntensityBusiness.com with Lawrence Neal, helping you achieve your health and fitness goals. Become a great personal trainer and build your high-intensity strength training business.
Lawrence Neal here, and welcome back to HighIntensityBusiness.com. Today's guest is Pamela Gold. Pamela Gold grew up on her family's apple farm in upstate New York, graduated from Yale University, and then entered the business world in New York City, where she was the point person on an IPO at the age of 24. Leaving the workforce to start a family, she co-founded West Village Parents and went on to pursue her passion for fitness and wellness. It was through this pursuit that she discovered yoga, which connected her love of philosophy, science, psychology, and wellness, and started her meditation practice, which ultimately unlocked an entirely new flow of wisdom and inspiration. She wrote her book, Find More Strength, 5 Pillars to Unlock Unlimited Power and Happiness in 2 weeks. Wow. Founded a coaching business and created Peace Power Parenting, an online course to support conscious parenting. And in 2018, she created Hacked Fitness, New York City's first biohacking fitness studio. Pamela, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Lawrence. It's a pleasure to be here.
Likewise, and excited to talk, excited to learn more about you and how things have been progressing along since we spoke about, what was it, 7-8 months ago, something like that? I think it was just before Christmas, wasn't it?
Yeah, right. The first early months of Hacked.
Yes. So, you know, we spoke at that time and you just kind of opened the doors and it was all a bit crazy and you weren't quite sure how things were going to go. And you had some goals, you had some sort of things you were sort of working towards. You know, how's business? I'd love to hear, like, how's things gone for you for the first kind of 7 or 8 months in business?
It's been really, really beautiful. The biggest surprise, or the thing I couldn't have anticipated, was the community that was going to pop up around Hacked. You know, the people that were organically going to find us and fall in love with, the energy of the space, the tech, the experience, the team. It's just been so beautiful and so organic in its growth. There's a lot of things about the business side that obviously I knew I wasn't going to know until I stumbled through and did it. So there's been a tremendous amount of learning on the business side. But between, the business going really well, the community just flourishing in ways I couldn't have imagined, it's just been, from every level, a success. I'm very, very grateful.
Talk to me about community. What do you mean by that?
So when I say community, we are a very small space. So it's not like we can have these big classes where you'll have like 50 people in here at once. I think the most we ever have in here is between 10 and 15 people. The thing about the community, though, is that the people that come here and then connect here, there's so much resonance that they then often, are becoming friends and working together outside of Hacked. And so like every Thursday, we do a community day where it's a free, maybe breath session or meditation or acupressure and oils. I mean, any kind of just, not necessarily directly related to anything that we do at Hacked, but just an opportunity for people to come together and learn something new and connect. But it really is just much more organic, that the people that come here, there's so much synergy, people that are so like-minded and like-hearted, operating on this kind of highest optimization level in all areas of their life. It's just been really this rapid connection and networking that's happening here, where there's this authentic love and authentic gratitude and authentic support, both for me and for each other. It's just been great.
Awesome. So when we spoke all those months ago, we were talking about your goals as a business owner, and you talked about how, at first it would be great to get approximately 100 clients spending around $600 per month, which would bring in around $60K a month revenue, or exactly $60K a month revenue. And that is, whilst an ambitious goal, it's when you break it down like that and you go, right, 100 people, New York City, obviously high income demographics. It becomes quite clear that it's quite achievable as well. I would love to hear how you've tracked against that. I'm assuming you've probably blown that out of the water at this point.
Well, I wouldn't say that we've blown it out of the water. And actually, it's funny. I mean, we've hit it. There's been months, weeks when we've hit it. And I think the thing that's been interesting is really quickly we transitioned as we figured out the business. I'm much less focused on driving sales and driving membership now. It's just organically happening. And I'm much more focused on the next iteration of the business, because this first location was a proof of concept, right? You haven't been in the space, but I did everything myself. I hung the curtains myself. I designed everything myself. So it's a grassroots startup environment here. And long term, that's not what Hacked is going to be. And so this first location was a proof of concept, and very quickly it was proven. So it very quickly became clear that this is real. We have a thing. We think this has legs. We think there's a lot of potential here. And now the next real thing we need to be focused on is, what's the next iteration of the business? What's our next real location going to look like? What's the business model going to be that's really scalable and rubber stamped, so we can start to expand? Because there's no question that having 100 people in New York City that are spending $600 a month, or some iteration of that, there's no question that this is real and that's happening. And so instead of focusing on driving sales and marketing, which I've really done absolutely no marketing besides just an Instagram stock post that is just shared, the focus really has been on cracking the code, and that's what's on our wall here too, but cracking the code for the business model. What is this next Hacked version 2 going to be? And so that's been really, since like the third month, that's been the focus. And so while our sales numbers are great and our membership numbers are great, we've been much more focused on this next phase. And so that's, I think, even more exciting than what we've accomplished in this space at this kind of minimum viable product proof of concept phase. It's more that we've proved it, and now we're looking for the next iteration.
And what will the next iteration look like? Do you have any view of that at the moment?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the vision is for there to be more of a circuit training option where we can have a lot more people come through the space hourly. So we'll get a bigger return on the investment, and we'll get more exposure to what we're doing here. So right now, our business model is just one-on-one kind of personal training, personal experiences on the ARX machines, which are the strength component, and then the cardio component, we have the Carol bikes, and then we have a lot of recovery options. But the vision is to have a very scalable, almost like a Chipotle version of the menu, where we're giving you what we think the best, easy, simple option is. So we're not going to ask you to think about it. You're just going to come in and do it. Whereas right now, there's still a lot of options on the menu, and it's too confusing. So we definitely envision taking everything up in terms of its scalability and simplicity. And then, of course, marketability and salability.
So will you be removing the number of options available to clients? So actually consolidating your services in order to make it more simple from a decision perspective? I think
there'll be some things that fall away. Sure. I think that if you can crystallize what, the big 5 are on recovery, right? If you can crystallize that, I think that'll be helpful. The recovery options are more the spa-like options that we have at Hacked. On the workout side, we definitely want simplicity. We definitely want a really clear strength component, a really clear cardio component, a really clear power side to include that, and then a simple recovery component. So it's much, much simpler, more crystallized. And yeah, there'll be a couple things that I think aren't going to be in the scalable version of Hacked, but we'll always have a Hacked that's kind of the test, Pam's playground, where we have everything so Pam can play and test things out.
Cool. I love that. I'd be really curious on your view on something, actually. So as I'm sure you know, of all your experience and background, when you're doing a very intense strength training protocol, you're getting a potent stimulus to your cardiovascular system. And, a lot of people say, if you're doing that, then you really don't require any other aerobic activity, be it steady state or high intensity interval training. So some people obviously believe, with that in mind, that something like the Carol alongside an ARX might be a bit redundant. What is your take on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that what we find, maybe 10% of our strength training, the ARX users are able to really get to that max exertion level. Some people, we don't even ever want them to get to that level because it's, from a safety perspective, there's just no reason for them to work at that level, whether they're older people or they're post-injury. But there's a lot of reasons why so many of our clients are just not there yet, and they're not getting that intense cardio workout. So for the 10% that are getting, like for me, I certainly am using ARX to its fullest capacity, and my little heart is working really, really hard. And I do think it's redundant to do, a Carol workout back to back with an ARX when you're really getting that level of exertion. But what we're finding is it takes most people a long time to get to that level of exertion. And so in the meantime, to give them the opportunity to get what the Carol gives you, a 45-minute jog in under 9 minutes, it's good for most people to package it together.
Okay, cool. And also, because you still use the Carol bike yourself on non-ARX days?
Yeah, I do.
So
I have one at home even.
Oh, you do? All right. Okay.
Yeah, I love Carol. Yeah.
Okay, so explain that logic to me. Is that for you just if you're getting your kind of cardiovascular stimulus from the ARX, as you just explained, does the Carol, because the sense I get is it's a fantastic way to, as you say, ease people into strength training. But I'm where I sort of struggle a little bit is understanding where it might complement your own training.
Yeah, well, I think that you get the power in the Carol that you don't get. That speed of acceleration that you don't get on the ARX. And so for me to have that component of it is powerful, pun intended. So I think that complement to do something that's that power drive. I mean, I do a lot of other things, I'm very active and I'm kind of weird in that, like when I'm around the house, if I'm putting something on the stove, I'll drop and do some, push-ups or do squat jumps or whatever. So I do stuff like that. But generally speaking, right, you need to train for power if you want to continue to have that. And so the Carol, I look at that as a power trainer for my lower body. And then I also am like, hey, getting some more higher cardio output is going to be good. I know my recovery scores. I watch my recovery scores really closely. So I know if I have plenty in my tank to do something. So to me, it's a no-brainer to hop on the Carol. It feels great. I feel great. I'm getting stronger. My cardio is getting better, and I'm still working out on average less than 40 minutes a week. So it's not like, some people are like, oh, you could do only 20 minutes a week. I'm like, yeah, like I could, but that other 20 feels really good, and I feel like I'm getting a benefit from it. So
yeah. Absolutely, fair play.
And there's some weeks where I might not need it and I won't do it, and I'm sure that's fine too.
Yeah, absolutely. It certainly is. So, looking at your toolkit, so to speak, in terms of all your different services you have, I'd be very interested to hear what's the most popular. What do people seem to be most drawn to in your kind of portfolio of services? Do you find?
Sure. So, the ARX, our strength training option, is definitely the most popular and sought after session that we have at Hacked. So that's our biggest seller, our highest utilization. The Carol also is quite popular. People do really like using it on off days or in tandem with the ARX. And then the Fit 3D scan has been a fabulous component of our offering. A lot of people come in first for the Fit 3D scan, not knowing anything about any of the other things that we have. And then we're able to transition them into, members for the other options that we have. So those are definitely our big three. And then the sauna is hugely popular. We have plenty of people who come here just for the sauna, and maybe eventually we'll get them to try some other things. It's whenever you're dealing with anything new, there's this evangelism period where people may be more or less open to try the new things. So some people, it takes them 30 times of looking at it before they're like, oh, you know what, I will try that. So, if someone's coming in regularly for the sauna and just the sauna, we keep patiently, inviting them to check out the other stuff. And we find that eventually most people are interested eventually. And when I tell them over and over again, no, really, I only work out 40 minutes a week. And most people don't think that that's possible because that's just not what we've been taught. And depending on how open someone is, how resistant someone is, eventually, even if they're just coming here for the sauna, eventually they're curious about the other stuff and want to try it too.
You're obviously in really good shape as well. Do you find your appearance helps a lot with selling the ARX and the other tools that you have? Because I can imagine people say, Pam, how do I look like you? Is that kind
Yeah,
of
it does. And I don't say that from an egoic perspective. I mean, I'm really grateful that my body is so healthy, and I know that, I'm blessed. And so I don't take it for granted at all. I'm super humble and grateful that I have such a strong body, and my body looks good because it is so strong and because it is so healthy. And I really focus on being healthy from the inside out. My fitness journey started because I did not have a body that I was happy about how it looked, and I didn't feel good about myself, and my energy level sucked. I mean, I was a new mom, so it's very common in those, especially when you have two. It's my second baby, and my first was 2.5 years old, and then I had a newborn, and it was the months right after I gave birth that somehow I regained back all my pregnancy weight. I had no idea that it happened, which is crazy that you could literally gain 40 pounds. And I'm a very, very small person, so 40 pounds on me is a lot of weight. And I literally wasn't even aware of the fact that I had gained all that weight. I was just kind of like, my clothes are very uncomfortable. It's so strange. My clothes are very uncomfortable. I had no idea. It's because I gained a shit ton of weight. And so I had a period of my life when I was not in good shape. I had to get myself back into shape. But originally at the time, I wasn't focusing on my inner health. I was just focused on trying to get healthier from the outside in to look better. And I got into really good shape, but I still wasn't happy. And that's when I started, meditating and doing other things, because I realized just having a strong body isn't going to make sure I have a strong mind and a strong heart.
So I've always had a bit of a battle with meditation myself. I've like a lot of people, I'll kind of have fits and spurts. I'll do it for 10 days in a row, and then I won't do it for 4 months. And I try the apps, things like Calm, things like Headspace. And I recently heard Naval Ravikant on Joe Rogan. I don't know if you follow Joe Rogan's podcast at all, but it was a very, very good podcast. Naval's like a angel investor, entrepreneur type. And he says on the podcast regarding meditation, he said, meditation doesn't have to be complicated. It doesn't have to be even where one focuses on their breathing. You literally have to just perfect the art of doing nothing, because we're so overstimulated. And so I've been making it a habit for myself lately. Me and my fiance, we have a little routine in the morning where she typically walks the dog, and so the apartment is totally empty, so I will go and sit for as long as she's out, whatever that is, 10-15 minutes, hands on my knees, just eyes closed, but just not really trying to be in a meditative state, just sitting there doing nothing. Because the default is obviously to look at the phone, get on the laptop, watch YouTube, fill in the blank.
That doesn't work.
Yeah,
that's not meditating.
Of course. But my point is, it's like to be stimulated in some way. And for me, I found it far more easy to adhere to this type of practice if I keep it really simple, where instead of being so, right, I must follow all the meditative kind of recommendations, it rather just do nothing.
I think that you cracked a code there, because one of the really important keys is not trying and surrendering. Because when we try, not to quote Yoda, but there's no try, there's only do. The secret is learning how to not try, learning how to be and just allow. And that there's so much power in that. And so it sounds like what you found for yourself is a simple practice where you're practicing being, you're practicing allowing, as opposed to trying to keep your attention on one thing, which I'll tell you was really helpful. When I first started meditating, I was taught that the first step is pratyahara, where you take your attention inward. You take your attention away from the five senses and you bring your attention inward. And from that inward space, you can notice how you can pay attention to thoughts. You can pay attention to your breath. You can pay attention to how your body feels on the inside, this beingness of your body. You have all these options of what you bring your attention to. And it really doesn't matter what you end up bringing your attention to in this first stage. But this first stage is focused concentration, that you're going to keep your attention on one thing, which of course doesn't work. Of course,
Right.
we all fail miserably, and then we judge it that we're failing at meditation. Like people, I can't even tell you, if I had $1 for everybody who said, I'm a horrible meditator, I failed, I can't keep my attention in one spot, it just keeps going. I'm like, of course, that's the point, is that we're not yet good at controlling our attention. And the way that we get better at controlling our attention is just keep bringing it back, keep bringing it back, keep bringing it back, being aware in the first place that it went somewhere. Like, oh shit, like, you know how it is. It takes a little while, usually in the beginning, before you even realize that you ended up following that thought. And now you're thinking about your grocery list, or you're thinking about, and then you're like, ah, shit, I did it again. You like beat yourself up, and then you come back, and then you come back. But the thing about it is that practice of awareness and then bringing your attention back, that's like doing a bicep curl for your meditation or mindfulness muscle in your brain. You're literally rewiring your brain to have more power of awareness. And that's the first step, because you can't even be aware. You can't have attention. Paying attention only works when we're aware of what we're paying attention to. They say you're only paying attention when you're paying attention to your attention. That lovely tongue twister. But that first step of focused concentration, where you will get better, you will get stronger in this power of focused attention, because the next step after that, the focused concentration, is the one that you kind of inadvertently skipped to, which is the effortlessness. But it's the effortlessness of focused concentration. So you probably not yet have cracked the code on effortless focused concentration, right? Where you can keep your attention on one thing or one place, even though the thoughts are still coming, even though you have the cramp in your leg, even though you hear the sound of, your fiance walking the dog and coming back in. In the beginning, when I was meditating, I used to get so pissed when like someone would come in the room, like, God damn it, I'm trying to meditate here. But the whole point is that that's a beautiful opportunity to come back anyway, to focus anyway, to be still anyway. And that's the practice. And remembering that the next step is effortless, that kept almost like if you're learning to fly and you're like, that at some point, or you're learning to swim. This is an even better one, because we've never fucking learned to fly, but we all have learned to swim, hopefully. Whereas like at some point, that you're going to be able to take your foot off of the bottom, right? And you're in the shallow end, and you're standing and you're kind of bouncing. And at some point, you're going to be able to stay up there without putting your foot back down on the bottom. And if you didn't know that that's where you were going, you wouldn't even try. You wouldn't even be moving in that direction. And try isn't even the right word, but being open to the possibility that it could be so, that you could effortlessly keep your concentration in one place. And it's that effortless focus when things start to get really good. It starts to open up. And that's when inspiration, creativity, love, bravery, power, happiness really starts to flow, and you become almost what feels like a superhuman. And so just to plant that seed that what you're practicing right now is perfect, and where you're trying to go is this increased capacity to be aware of what you're paying attention to and to be able to control what you pay attention to, because where your attention goes, energy flows. You want to be in control of your energy. You want to keep it in one spot, and then you want to be able to keep it in one spot without trying, because the very act of trying zaps your power. So once you can keep it in one spot without trying, you feel superhuman, and it gets really good.
So clearly you're an expert on this Pam, much more so than myself. What's your own meditative practice like?
So I found a technique called Kriya. There's a book by Yogananda called Autobiography of a Yogi. And I found that book after another book I was reading by Michael Singer mentioned it, that it had changed his life. And then that same week, someone told me that that was the book that Steve Jobs said changed his life. And it was the one book that he kept on his nightstand his whole life. And at his funeral, everyone got a copy of this book. And I was like, I probably should read that book. It sounds like
There's
a
lots
book
of
I should
signs.
probably read. And so I read the book, and there's also a documentary called Awake that you can get on Netflix and other providers. That's a much more watered down version of the book. I highly recommend the book. I had already started meditating when I read the book. a more shallow practice that was profound, but nowhere near what I was about to learn. And in the book, he was talking about things, synchronicities, some of the superpowers I had already kind of started to experience. And then he talked about a whole lot more. And I was like, well, if this first tip of the iceberg I already know is true because I'm experiencing it, even though it sounds crazy, but I'm experiencing it, so I know it's true. Why not all of this other superpower magical stuff? And so I found a teacher in New York. I Googled Kriya, which is Kriya. I found a teacher. I sat with him. The first time I sat with him, I experienced a more profound state of higher consciousness and light and energy and power and magical mysticalness than I'd ever experienced. And I was like, okay, I'm going to keep meditating with this guy. And he taught me the really simple techniques. And they're not weird. They're just really super simple. But there's something about the way that we bring our attention to our various chakras in our body and our being, and the way that we breathe when we inhale, when we exhale, and how we do it, how we use our attention with our breath. That is just transformative. And another word for it is Kundalini energy. This, you're lifting up and raising up, bringing up the Kundalini, awakening the Kundalini energy. And when we do that, we're tapping into just so much more power than we ever thought a human being could possibly have. Because until we start meditating and going deep, I used to always say, I'm only human. I mess things up all the time. And I'm like, well, I'm only human. Now I realize I am human and I'm something such deeper, bigger, more powerful, more eternal, because I've experienced it, which is very different than reading philosophy. Like I was super into Alan Watts and super into a lot of these, deeper philosophical teachers around mysticism and spirituality and trying to figure out the meaning of life and why am I here and how to be the best version of myself. Sure. But once you experience it, then it's like, oh, and there's no turning back. And so my meditation is Kriya. It's very simple. There's actually 7 different levels of Kriya that one can learn. I've only learned the first 2 so far. After the first one, I was like, where else could I possibly go? What else could possibly happen? And it just becomes more and more fine-tuned and more powerful. And it's worth looking into. And I always say, don't take my word for it. Try it for yourself. See if it resonates. Yeah. The thing about meditation, there's so many different paths. It's about finding one that resonates for you. And if anything about what I'm saying is resonating for you, then Google Kriya, find a teacher, or you can reach out to me and I can introduce you to my teacher. He does remote teachings and it's not expensive. It's not like TM, Transcendental Meditation, where you have to spend thousands of dollars or something to learn the techniques. It's not like that. It's just, there's an honor to it and an integrity and a respect. And there's a lineage. And so the teacher always just wants to make sure that the student is sincere. But once you show that you're sincere, they'll teach you. It's really simple.
So what's your protocol then for meditation? Is it a daily practice? Is it twice a day? Like, what does it look like in that respect?
So it's ebbed and flowed. In the beginning, when I first learned basic meditation, I committed to meditating every day for 3 weeks. And I said, I'm going to meditate every day for 3 weeks, and then I'm going to see. Because anything in life, you have to do it consistently to see if there is benefit. And the same thing when people come to HECT. I'm like, you got to sign up for the 6-week program because that's how you're going to know if it works for you. That's how you're going to know if you get results. So 3 weeks, 6 weeks, make a commitment to a daily practice. I highly recommend that you start wherever you are, even if it's 1 minute a day. And then notice how you feel. The secret sauce is to notice how you feel right after you meditate. Maybe journal right after you meditate. What did you experience? Did you experience light? Do you experience an energy shift? Do you feel different? Just notice it. Notice it. It helps reinforce the experience. And so for me, I started with on Spotify, my old teacher, who a lot of people I still love him. I just don't meditate like this anymore, but it's on Spotify and iTunes. His name is Alan Finger. And there's a Satyam meditation. It's about 18 minutes. And I did that once a day, whenever I could fit it in, for 3 weeks. And I never looked back. I never stopped meditating after that because I started to experience such profound shifts in my ability to respond to life instead of react to life. And so I highly recommend that. And that's how I started, once a day for 18 minutes. You can always find 18 minutes. And I don't care if you get interrupted, people come in and out of the room. It'll make you stronger. It's all good. And then I kind of like stopped because I was feeling so good. And then I read Kriya. I mean, I was still like meditating, but I was more meditating just whenever, because I could go to that space whenever. And then I met my Kriya teacher, and then I started meditating again every day religiously. Like every morning, I started waking up a half an hour before the rest of my family to make sure that I had that time uninterrupted, because it was that important to me. It was that transformative. There was nothing more important to me during that phase of my life than my meditation practice, because I was getting such profound transformation from it that I was like, this is more important than eating. It's like, maybe not sleep, but maybe, I don't know. But like,
how was
no matter
it
what,
manifesting itself in your life?
it was almost like I could bend time.
Wow.
and bend power, like intention. I could think something and then it could happen. I could be in the flow, think about someone they would call. And it's still like this. This is the magical, mystical reality of my life. You know, it's like it's almost like you make a wish, and then in some funny way, the wish comes true. And you don't even, it's like when you go to the restaurant and you place an order for your food. You don't then sit for the next 20 minutes worrying whether or not it's going to happen. You place the order. It's coming. And that's what meditation empowered me with. I could place an order, and then I would know what to practice in terms of surrendering and knowing that it was so, and then it would come. Things like I would start to get angry, and instead of just tearing someone's head off, I'd be like, oh, that's interesting. I'm getting angry. What's underneath that? Is that appropriate? Is that going to be of service? Do I need to fight somebody? Because really anger is only helpful when we have a physical confrontation, but it's always telling us something important. And so I would, suddenly have all this time to look at it and be like, what is the anger telling me? Oh, this is going on. Oh, okay. So here's an opportunity for me to release that old trauma, because that's not from now, and that's not of service. And that was 20 years ago. And I forgive that person, and I forgive myself. And now I'm in an entirely different situation. It would be completely inappropriate and out of service or out of alignment, or, not helpful if I behaved in an angry way to this person, because this has nothing to do with that person. And so it was all that weird stuff that I was like, well, that's weird, because I normally would have just erupted. It made me so much more effective at being human and at getting things done, making things happen.
Yeah, because you have an interesting kind of personality, because you come across, in one hand, very pragmatic about the business and objective, but then you also have this kind of more subjective spiritual side. Because when you said, oh, it means, I can spend time and I can kind of like make things happen. Sorry, I didn't mean to sound, I almost laughed.
No,
I was being patronizing.
No, I hear myself sometimes. I'm like, I can't believe I say that. But that I told you in the pre-interview, like, I'm really transparent. I don't think that it's not of service for me to bullshit anyone. And you can think that I'm crazy. And if someone's not ready to hear this, they're going to just think that I'm nuts. But then I always say, the proof is in the pudding. See the results. See what I've accomplished. In the last 3 years, since I've started this meditation practice, my husband manages a pop artist and has a record label. The artist that he manages is one of the top pop artists now in the world. That happened right in conjunction with me starting to meditate this way. And it's not a coincidence. I was inspired to write my book in 2 weeks. I created a parenting program, opened Hacked. I mean, there's real world results. If someone is talking about bending time and being able to do all this stuff, and they're not doing anything in the real world, you have every right to kind of, be skeptical and roll your eyes and whatever. But at the end of the day, if someone is launching businesses and making things happen and walking the walk, and so anybody that works with me on my team, I talk about being compassionate. I talk about being brave. I talk about, being wise and continually leveling up on our availability of wisdom and truth, and then using it to improve systems, to improve businesses, to improve products, right? I'm using all of that to make the world a better place. So you can be really, really skeptical about all the, woo-woo, mystical, spiritual stuff that I'm sharing with you today, which I had no intention of talking about, but here we are. So apparently that's exactly what we needed to talk about.
That's the way podcasts go.
Yeah, that's how podcasts go, but that's how it flows. But you can be skeptical about all that, but then you can come to Hacked and you can be like, there is something pretty magical going on here. Like the energy here is amazing. The people that are drawn to here are amazing. The workout is amazing. You know, like, okay, the curtains that I hung are not amazing. Like, there are things that are,
well, it's very,
but we're going to raise money and do a real location next. So, you know, yeah, go ahead.
No, sorry. I was just going to say it's very like, even though I am naturally a skeptical person of all of that stuff, it's still very apparent. Your energy is very attractive, you know, and it's very infectious, you know, and so
it's contagious because it's real.
Right,
the good shit's contagious and the bad shit's contagious, but the good shit is even more contagious and powerful because, like, I could be in a room and there could be really skeptical people in the room who are trying to, you know, bring me down or poke holes or people walk into Act all the time and they want to not like it. You know, they're super skeptical. I'm telling them they can work out for 20 minutes a week and be in the best shape of their life. I mean, half the people that come in here get dragged by other people, right? Because the people that love it, like anybody that they care about, they want to share it with. And so they drag people here. People walk in here and they really don't want to like it. They don't want to like me because I'm like this, you know, bubbly blonde person who, you know, if you have any propensity to not being happy, you're really not going to like me. I'm going to really rub you the wrong way because I'm fucking happy all the time. And so, like, I can be very irritating to people. And so people come in here and they don't believe the science. They think it's all bullshit. They don't believe the workout. They really don't want to like me. And I just hold space for that. And I'm patient and I meet them where they are. And I win people over because it's real. Because the technology is real. I mean, you know, the high intensity interval equipment that I have here is real. You will get results from this equipment. And the other secret thing that I also don't always tell people, once you get on the ARX and I'm asking you to go harder than you've ever gone before and be more vulnerable than you've ever been before, be more uncomfortable than you've ever been before, that's when I start sneaking in my mindset and inner strength stuff. You know, because why do we struggle being brave? Why do we struggle being uncomfortable? Why do we struggle having positive thoughts and telling ourselves that we can do it? You know, that's all inner work. And so once I get you on the ARX, I sneak all that stuff in there. And so over time, it is a gateway. So over time, even my most nuts and bolts kind of skeptical clients end up kind of sheepishly asking me about some of the other, you know, more energy work kind of stuff, deeper healing stuff, meditation stuff. Because also, too, once we start talking about stress and we're tracking your HRV, and I can show you how when we meditate, our HRV goes up, you know, then it's like, oh, wait, you can track that this is actually doing something. So eventually all the dots get connected. And so I always tell everybody, don't take my word for it. Try it for yourself. You know, you don't need to like me. You don't need to believe me. Try it for yourself. The data is all there. That's why on our wall and on our shirts, it says data don't lie, because I want to empower all my people to ultimately be the heroes of their own story, to figure it out for themselves, to walk the walk themselves. I don't want people to just take my word for it and rely on me and believe in me. I'm not anybody's savior. Each of us has to figure out how to tap into our own inner hero. Right. And I know you definitely believe in all of this part of it. And so it all connects ultimately. And so it is a gateway. I do highly recommend that if this is resonating for anybody, that you do, you know, check out Kriya or check out meditation or reach out to me, because I am obviously passionate about this. And at the end of the day, everything that I do to be of service. And so I always try to take calls and try to connect with people who are sincere about, you know, leveling up in all areas of their life, because mind, body, and spirit strength and fitness and capacity is all connected. You ultimately will be stronger physically if you're stronger mentally and stronger. When I say spiritually, it's like our heart, our inner strength. Are we able to trust life, trust ourselves, love life, love ourselves? That's the ultimate litmus test for inner strength. And if that's not shored up, the results physically are going to be undermined. Period. End stop.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I've been, you know, well, few years ago, I was so I did very little of the. Actually, that's not true. I did work on my inner self, my mindset, that kind of thing. Sometimes as just a byproduct of reading certain personal development books and things like that. But I was always much more focused on business, trying to become better at my career, which at the time was a few years ago would have been IT sales, and then more recently my own online business. But for the last let's say three years now, I've had therapy either once a week or monthly, and done a lot more journaling, as I said, a bit of meditation, just making a point of going to walk the dog without a podcast in my ears, just to be present. Just to be, exactly. And all these things have had such enormous impact on my own sense of calm and my own sense of happiness. As I was always such an external person, you probably know this.
And then creativity, right? Haven't you found that you're much more creative? You get inspired much more efficiently. It flows. You don't get blocked.
Like, I was out on Saturday. I was out with some friends, and we were at this seaside town in Galway in Ireland, and it was one of these rare, very sunny, hot days, which we capitalized on. And we're sort of going back to our cars, and friend Brendan said to me, do you ever, because he's also a very kind of type A driven entrepreneurial type, and he said, do you ever just find that you're, even on a day like this when it's beautiful and you're with good company and you're trying to relax, that you can't keep your mind off that phone call you've got to make or that email you've got to send or what have you, or you keep thinking of ideas and stuff and you feel like you want to go to work, you want to get back to work. And I said to him, I get that, but this is how I flipped it. I said, I'm grateful for the fact that when I'm in these moments, I get all these amazing ideas. I just know I don't have to act on them right now. So instead, I store them up, and then I wait till whenever it is that I'm scheduled to actually work, and then I execute. And I instead appreciate that. It like, to your point, it gives you some headspace to create these new ideas, which wouldn't happen if you were otherwise constantly stimulated. That's one of the things I've realized. It took me ages to realize that. I'm sure it's something you've been aware of.
And to really be creative, you have to be vulnerable, right? And so anything that's blocking our vulnerability is blocking our creativity.
What do you mean by that exactly?
So whenever we're creating something new, we are taking a risk. We're being brave. We have to be vulnerable to do that on the biggest level that we're capable of, right? I think it's Hemingway, the quote that the only benefit or gift that humans can give in their life are the risks they're willing to take, right? If we're going to be visionaries, if we're going to create things that are new and different and valuable, it has to be something that's unique and that not everyone's going to get. And so there's a risk in that. There's a vulnerability in that. And if we're subconsciously or consciously blocking our vulnerability, we're trying to stay safe, play it safe, be safe, we're going to be blocking the really big ideas, the really big game-changing risks, the things that are going to make us level up in the ways that we really are capable of leveling up. Because I do believe each of us has really unique genius, really unique gifts to give to the world, big or small, but they're unique and they are big in the impact that they can make, whether they're an impact for one person or an impact for a million people. It doesn't matter from my perspective, but we all have these big impacts to make. And if we're not comfortable being vulnerable, or to the extent that we're not comfortable being vulnerable, we're going to be blocking those big leveling up ideas and risks. We're going to be blocking being a visionary.
Yeah. No, I fully understand what you mean now, and that completely makes sense. I think this is useful because I think meditation is such a powerful practice for entrepreneurs, and also on the recovery side of the equation from any type of physical exercise, for sure. I wanted to talk to you a little bit, panning back for a second and talking about fitness a bit more. What are you... So yeah, I'm sort of shifting gears slightly here.
No, it's okay. Well, it all goes hand in hand because this is ultimately what we do at Hacked. We just sneak it in. Like we have the muse where we're encouraging people to meditate and use biofeedback to meditate. So it all goes back to what we do at Hacked for sure.
Yeah, for sure. In terms of I'd be interested, like what have you found in terms of the prospects coming through the door? What type of people are you attracting naturally in your business? What's been the easiest sell? Try not to sound too crude, but
the most crystallized description that I use is that they're people that are aware and awake about how precious their bodies are, and they're awake to how precious their time is. And so there's this natural optimization drive around their health and wellness and fitness. And that can be, an entrepreneur, that can be a C-level, founder of a big company. It could be, an ambassador. It could be a mom, a stay-at-home mom. It could really fall into any different, bucket. But the unifying factor is that there's the easiest sell in terms of unifying factor of the easiest sell is there's that awareness around how precious their time is and how precious their body is.
And, when we were talking about how well things have gone for the business and how you've literally spent, as you said earlier, very little time and energy on marketing, yet you've been able to get plenty of people through the door. Do you think that's a product of being or creating a blue ocean with your business? Or what do you think is the ingredients that have kind of led to that outcome?
I think that one real world thing is that we're on 7th Avenue, which is a very busy street. We do have an awning and a sign on ground level. So as you walk by, it is noticeable for people that are paying attention. So we get a lot of foot traffic visibility. And then we have flyers on the door. So there's a way for people to just quick grab something and then have access to the information later on. So I think that's a real world practical thing. I think that Instagram has been huge for us. This is all very new and noteworthy, and people in New York love to be influencers and love to share things on Instagram. So there is a natural propensity of sharing that's happening, especially in the New York City market, that maybe other markets don't have such a flow of. That's very real. So I think Instagram and Instagram stories and people sharing and tagging and all that fun stuff on Instagram has been a really big part of it. And
just
then
on Instagram, is it the existence of Instagram that's the key thing? Because people are then coming in and shooting pictures, adding to stories, sharing it, or is it your activity on Instagram that's the key thing, or both?
I think both. I think that we have to be somewhat active on Instagram in order to keep, to have a container for people then to go and look at the profile. So I think that us being somewhat active, and I do it all myself. I haven't paid, a consultant or outsourced any of this stuff. And so, my point in that is that it's not awesome. Like I'm a 40-something-year-old, mom of two. I'm not like this really adept social media guru by any stretch, but it's organic. It's all really organic things that we organically want to share. People we're happy to share stories about and then reshare. So the fact that I am resharing stories and that I am taking pictures with people and encouraging people to post. So I think that both the existence of Instagram is really huge. And then the fact that we are at least, middle of the road savvy in terms of our activity. I'm certainly not saying I'm particularly savvy, but I am posting and there is at least a basic aesthetic that I'm following. It's like, and there's pillars of like, okay, some of them are candid, some of them are about the tech and data. Some of them are, the community, there's pillars of content that I am, and then some of them are inspirational. So there is some strategy and, I am at least basically knowledgeable about basic Instagram strategy, and basic, like I know hashtags.
Yeah, I'm the same. I do my own Instagram and I'm not very good at it, and I try and get better. And I'm just looking at yours, and it's quite good
nothing.
actually.
Something is better than nothing. You know, I tell everybody, it's like, start wherever you are. Don't let sucking ever stop you from doing it anyway, because that's how you're going to learn. So just start where you are, and then you'll get better.
Yeah. I mean, even if you look at, I try, as I'm sure I'm looking at yours, and I can see you've sort of experimented with some sort of different branding and, and consistency in the way you do the posts. And if you go and look at, say, for instance, Joe Rogan's YouTube captions for his podcasts, and he's done, I think at this point, almost 1,400. And you go back to some of the, the first 500, they're all over the place. You can see they're trying to find their way in terms of how they put their own thumbnail and all this kind of like growth hacking stuff.
And it's organic, and we all have to embrace the process, right? It's like, and we get stuck so often with subconscious. We don't even realize we're doing it, that we're not doing something because we're really not comfortable with how it's going to turn out. And so, or we don't, we just block ourselves, like all these ways that we're blocked. And we just have to make sure that we're not letting ourselves be blocked. Like make a list of all the things that you need to do each week to be successful, and then do them no matter what, even if it sucks. But like, well, I said I was going to send a newsletter, so I'm sending it, even if it sucks. Well, I said I was going to do 3 Instagram posts on these topics. I'm going to do them, even if they suck. I'm just going to do them, because by doing, you're going to get better. Like I'm calling myself out right now, because one of the things that I haven't prioritized that I really ideally need to be doing is just Instagram live videos, just sharing little things that are of service. And, I hate doing videos, Lawrence. I can't even tell you. I still I don't like doing anything that feels egoic. Like I hate doing anything that feels like it's about me, because it's not about me. Nothing is about me.
Well, let me ask you, why do you feel the need to do that at all?
Because it is of service, because people consume content that way, and people will learn and be inspired, and then they'll be able to level up. And it's good for Hacked, because then they'll be more in the front of their mind that, I can do that at Hacked. Oh, I think I have this problem, but Hacked will solve that problem. It's another really, really very consumed channel are the Instagram, live videos.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's not like anytime you do one, it pops up. And so you'll get a notification. Like if you went on Instagram right now and did a live video on my phone, if I follow you, chances are it would tell me, hey, Lawrence is doing a live video right now. And then if I'm at all interested, I will just click on it. It's like, how often do you get push notifications like that it will immediately drive someone to your content? It's really valuable.
No, that's absolutely true. So when you, so are you just on Instagram, or did you sign up for all the platforms, Facebook?
Well, I've been on Facebook since my kids were born, so I'm most comfortable on Facebook, but those new millennial people don't like Facebook, Lawrence. So, Facebook really is kind of not cool, according to my kids anyway. But Instagram is definitely, I think, the most valuable platform right now. I am on Twitter, but mainly just share things on Twitter. And I don't do Pinterest, because it's just my brain explodes and I can't do any more than I already am. So and I don't do Snapchat, because I tried, and my kids tried to teach me, and I just am like, that's just not happening right now. No.
How are you? Well, just curious, how do you manage your social media? How do you stop it from being, because it's it can be it's obviously incredibly addictive, and it can be a huge time suck as it can be. You can find yourself spending a disproportionate amount of time compared to what the return is. So how do you manage that for you?
I think for me, my mindfulness practice has really helped in that area, because I have a natural filter now where energetically I can feel if something is right, of service, important, in alignment. There's an energetic feel that I get from posts, whether it's worth my time or not. And I know that sounds weird, but there's a natural filter. Like you can filter through. You can feel energetically if someone's posting something from a negative place, and then the question is, all right, can I actually help, or is this not an area where I can help? Like, will my energy help lift this situation or not? And I've developed this natural filter where I just kind of quickly move through, and I trust what authentically sparks joy. I'm obviously an authentic person. So on Instagram, if something makes me happy, I heart it. I authentically will interact. I think authenticity is a really important piece of the social media puzzle, because people can feel if you're authentic or if you're not. And so the fact that I am very authentic on social media, it keeps me in flow. That like if something doesn't authentically feel like it resonates, I'm not going to inauthentically post on it. And so if it doesn't resonate, I just keep going. And I just spend a little bit of time. I'm a really busy person. And so like, I don't even have that much time to be on Instagram. And so there's so many other things that I need to be doing that are important. It's like, there's no way I could get sucked into something that's not important. It's just not even possible with the way my schedule is. So I just fit in. Then there's some days you may see that like we don't post as much some weeks because I'm just freaking busy, and I just surrender that it was meant to be that way. Like there's a lot of surrender going on right now for me in my life, because if I believed in the feeling of overwhelm, I would be a freaking puddle on the floor. Like the number of balls that are getting dropped constantly. If I had any story around I'm not good enough, if I don't do everything perfectly, and if I don't drop balls, I'd be a mess, because there's no way I am not missing tons of emails and missing tons of important things and messing updates and messing things up. And I just have to trust that I'm doing what I need to do, and I'm getting done the things that I need to get done. And any painful lessons will make sure I don't drop that one next time. And I trust that every mistake I make is grace. And if I miss something, if I fuck something up, it's because I needed to get that lesson right then and there. And that person on the receiving end apparently needed it too. And it's all grace. And just take the lesson and keep on going.
Yeah, I totally agree. What's it? Tim Ferriss called it, let small bad things happen so you can do high impact things.
I love him. I wish I had more time to consume his content, because I think clearly like he's my people. Like I think we just have a very similar life experience and philosophy and practice around, living our best life.
Yeah, for sure. I'm a huge fanboy.
We need to have our inspired teachers and people that we can fan out and be like, oh my God, I love you.
Yeah, well, it's especially when you can attribute so much of your own success to some of the stuff they introduced you to and taught you. But I find that really encouraging, actually, that someone as successful as you in lots of domains. I mean, your career is fascinating. It still feels like that. Still feels like, oh, you know what? I do have to surrender X, Y, and Z all the time, because there's, I'm only one person and there's only so much I can do. I find that, and hopefully those listening will also find that to be quite comforting, because I think we're all there, especially with social
just keeps
media.
Getting worse, Lawrence.
Yeah. With social media, with the internet, there is an infinite number of things you can do, and that's the reality. And you have to become very good at just saying no to almost everything.
Yeah, that's why having a compass, this inner compass around your vision, like where am I going? And is this going to help lead me there? And saying no to things that aren't helping to lead you there. All I'll say though, the adjunct to that is I have a very balanced kind of spiritual perspective. So as busy as I am, I will always at least several times a week, I'll end up on a call with some friend of a friend or some client or some old client or some relative that just needs help, that just needs advice. And I will end up on an 1.5 or 2-hour call just with someone. And I trust that when it feels right, that I do it. I feel that they need it and can use it and are integrating it and taking my energy. And it's a 1 + 1 = 8 situation. And I can feel that's what I'm meant to be doing. And it doesn't necessarily directly tie into my a vision around Hacked, but there is this bigger vision around me as a person and leaving a legacy, that I do have this very big legacy or vision around my legacy, where I am someone who is of service. I'm someone who shows up. And if I find my place in the present moment and someone needs help and I feel like I'm able to give that help, I don't ever let any kind of laundry list of to-do things convince me that I can't be of service. And so sometimes that's a little thing. Like the other day, oh my God, I was trying to go get my kid from school, and there was a blind man. It sounds so trite, but it's true. A blind man who was trying to cross the street, and he was stuck behind a pile of garbage. And even though I was totally late, my son can handle me being 5 or 10 minutes late. So even though I was already late, I stopped and helped him. And it turned into this whole quagmire of weirdness, because he ended up wanting to like smell me. It was weird things that happened with this blind man. So it was weird. But point of the story, very funny story, was that even though I was late, I stopped and helped. And that is, even though like we all have these visions for what we're trying to achieve in our business, or, we always have to remember that being in the present moment and authentically being of service is really why we're here. And trusting that and being in that, no matter how many things you have on your list, trust being in the present moment, what sparks joy, what feels right. It feels right to help when we can feel that energetically that help is needed and is going to be appreciated and it's going to pay it forward. Like there's a flow that we're a part of. We experience life in this very linear, dualistic way, but that's not what's really happening. What's really happening is there's this flow. And so as much as we can practice being in the present moment and feeling the flow and trusting the flow while keeping this big vision going, and not like, don't agree to chair a fundraiser that's like 3 months out when you've got a million other things. Like probably that's not going to be in the flow. And we need to be honest about that. And you can feel that in the gut of like the pit of your stomach that like, gosh, I would love to help, but this has to be a no. And find yourself in moments when you can be present and can show up and be of service. It's just, there's that dance. There's a dance to it all. And so while we have to learn to say no, we have to also learn how to trust the things we're meant to say yes to at the same time. And that's the art of living our best life.
Absolutely. Pam, what are you, is it just Hacked Fitness you're focused on now? Because I know you've had various companies.
Well, that's mainly what I'm focused on, because that's like a baby that I had that is a very needy baby right now. So that's Hacked Fitness is pretty much 99% of my work. I have other babies that are more independent. So Peace Power Parenting is still out there and people sign up to it. I don't do coaching through it anymore. It used to be like an online program plus coaching. Now it's just the online program, which is still amazing. And there's a workbook and it's awesome and it's transformative for people who do it. And then my book, Find More Strength, which goes so hand in hand with Hacked. It's so funny because that's about inner strength, but we all end up there eventually. So that book is still happening. Those are my main three work outlets. I still do life coaching sometimes for, the specific person here and there, but only really in rare cases because it's very time intensive. And I have to feel like whatever I invest my time in, there's a good return on that investment. And it's not about money. I mean, money is important because I'm investing that in Hacked, but I really can feel, that there's a return on my investment that's beyond money, that if someone who's meant to make a big impact in the world needs coaching, and by me investing in them, they're going to go on to like help a lot of people or have something really major happen in their own life or something, then I'll still do it. It's just not as frequent because there's just so many hours in the day and it's not scalable. So, but I still do that sometimes for certain people, but mainly I'm focused on taking Hacked to the next level.
Awesome. And let's start kind of wrapping up now, and let's talk about what I'd love to finish on kind of what the expansion plans for Hacked. I mean, you've touched on this. You said at the moment how you're planning kind of the next iteration. It sounds like you're almost trying to create. Almost optimize the existing operation to figure things out in this kind of MVP, this first iteration, so that you can then roll out the next iteration more kind of confidently with proven operations and systems. Is that?
Yeah. And we basically have this. So I have a vision where there's going to be different footprints. So there will be a footprint that's kind of like the existing footprint where it's a small scale, it's individualized. You have 2 strength training machines, 2 cardio machines, you've got the recovery stuff, and maybe at most you have 10 people, in the space at one time. So that footprint works. We've nailed that. We know it works. That's ready to go. With the exception of kind of just really crystallizing all our tech partners. But the next iteration where it's more of a circuit, small group training, you can move more people through the space, let's say, 40 people an hour through the space. That has to be proven. So we're going to open a location where we're going to test that out and nail that. And that goes hand in hand with everything that we're doing from day one. I've wanted this to be scalable. So we're creating the systems, creating all of the documentation training, because I do see this as being a franchise model where I've already had a lot of people speak to me about franchising this because they feel the power in what we're doing here, even though it's super simple to recreate it on your own. There's so much work that's gone into already to creating the Hacked brand and creating the systems and creating the energy behind it, that there are a lot of people that respect that and want to join that as opposed to recreate it. So either way, I'm helpful. People, if I had $1 for every person that reaches out to me because they want to open something like this, I try to help as much as possible. But, again, there's only so many hours in the day. But I definitely think that the smaller footprint is going to be a franchise. I think the bigger footprint is going to be a franchise. I think that there's going to be kiosks. I think that the vision is to really help transform fitness so people can have smarter, faster fitness, have access to it, to evangelize that this is the better way.
Yeah, it's interesting. I hear about a lot of boutique fitness companies of all shapes and sizes are looking at the franchise route to grow as fast as possible, or to grow faster versus retaining ownership of the future studios. And I wonder if we're going to be in a few years' time, there's going to be just so many boutiques everywhere. Does that concern you at all, especially somewhere like New York City, where I imagine there's already quite a few boutique studios?
That's the thing. There's a lot of things about the New York City fitness market that are saturated, right? Like we don't need another spin studio. We don't need another group fitness class. Oh yeah. Are you kidding?
I've not been to New York, so I have no idea.
Oh my God. Yeah, no, there's so many group fitness that are just, they say they're differentiated, but they're really not. Right. And look, I think there's always going to be room for authenticity. I think there's always going to be room for heart-centered leadership in the fitness space, because at the end of the day, being really called to help people be healthy and fit, as opposed to being called to make money, is going to change the energy of a space, the energy of a company, the energy of a brand, and it's going to change the results that people get there. And so even in a really saturated market, I think that there's always room for better, more heart-centered, more powerful brands that can get better results, build a better business, right?
Yeah.
That said, I don't want to be in that business. I want to be in this data, tech, smarter, faster, effective minimum dose world. And that's not being done right now. I'm not concerned about more people doing it because there's only one me. There's only going to be one Hacked. As other companies, other brands build, they'll have a different sensibility, a different energy about them. There's plenty of people in the fitness market that need our services. So I don't ever fear competition. I really, really believe that a rising tide lifts all ships. And the only companies that end up struggling are the ones that really probably didn't have their, business model and their vision, value, mission really buttoned up. Because there is enough people that need help. And if we're authentically putting something into the marketplace that is authentic value, and we're authentically shouting it from the rooftops, not trying to sell it, but saying, hey, I'm so excited to share that you have this opportunity to come do this, which is going to change your life or has the capacity to change your life. You're not selling. That's the thing. The most effective sales techniques, you're not selling. You're sharing this amazing opportunity. And then, yes, you're going to use scarcity to close and all that fun stuff to be more effective. There are better ways. But the more competition, the more competition in the marketplace, the more it helps us all be better. And then, yeah, some people may not end up surviving, but I would say those are the people that really weren't in the right lane in the first place that needed to pivot. And for whatever reason, either did or didn't or whatever. But I don't believe in competition, especially in fitness. Unfortunately, there is such a dearth of opportunity for people to find their path to get fit. And it sounds crazy because there's so many options out there, but we all know so many people that aren't doing it, that haven't found a path, that haven't found a way. So anybody who's out there and wants to be of service, do it. Be brave, start your company, do it.
Yeah, I love that. And I think that's a great way to end this conversation. Pam, this has been so much fun, and we've gone into all sorts of different directions, which is cool. I love that about the podcast format in general. It's kind of one of the reasons why I've kept doing it all this time. What's the best way for people to find out more about you and Hacked Fitness?
Yeah, if they go to the website, HACKD Fitness, hackedfitness.com, or follow us on Instagram. It's the same handle, Hacked, HACKD Fitness. That's the easiest.
Why did you decide to leave the E out of Hacked? What was the reason for that?
It just felt cooler. It just felt like everything came through meditation, and it just was like, it just differentiates. Like, this is not, everything about this is efficient. Everything about this is next level, and leaving out the E just felt right. It really just was a feeling more than anything that was rational. It just felt right.
I like it. How did you come up with the name, just out of interest?
Meditation. Really? I was just meditating. None of this. My Peace Power Parenting program was going really well, and I had a really strong platform, and I was helping people. And then all this started coming through meditation. It was like, what, really? And everybody that was close to me was like, what, really? And I'm like, I know, but I feel like I'm pregnant and the baby's coming. So here we are.
Wow. Well, so you were having thoughts about starting some kind of efficient exercise business.
It wasn't even thoughts. I was using the ARX as a client consumer, and I loved it. And then I used the new ARX. I was like, oh my God, I need this. And no one in New York had it. And so I was like, well, but I want it. So I was like, well, I guess.
Did you have it at your home then? That's where you were using it?
No, there was a guy in New York that had the old version of one.
Okay.
Excuse me.
Got it. Okay, cool. Do you know what, by the way, I love the contrast with the sirens, the New York sirens, and the talk of meditation. I think that's quite funny.
New York City, baby.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, thanks so much, Lawrence. I really appreciate it.
No, you're welcome, Pam. And to everyone listening to this episode, please go to highintensitybusiness.com/hacked fitness. So that's without the E, HACKD fitness. And for all episodes, please go to highintensitybusiness.com/podcast. And until next time, thank you very much for listening.
Discover how to achieve your health and fitness goals, become a great personal trainer, and build a successful, high-intensity training business. Check out highintensitybusiness.com. highintensitybusiness.com.